Toby and Henrietta often meet James at the junction. James turned his nose up at the Fat Controller's new engine. Toby and Henrietta were old and needed new paint. The Fat Controller had had a number 7 painted on Toby, but not anything else. James had taken notice to this fact, and every day James would make fun of the tram engine and his coach. Finally, one late October morning, Toby had enough. "Co, whatever are those dirty objects?" Toby flashed a cheeky grin at James. "James, why are you red?" "I'm red because I'm such a splendid engine deserving of such a special color. I'm ready for anything. You'd never see my paintwork dirty." "Oh, that's why you once needed bootlaces, to be ready, I suppose." James turned red. "How did you? It seems Thomas wasn't supposed to hear that incident." "Huh." James went redder than ever and snorted off. At the big station, he was turned and hitched up to a line of trucks. They were a slow goods, stopping at every station to pick up and let off loads. The train James started off with was never the same when they reached the end of the line. James hated trucks. He'd always say, "Dirty trucks from dirty sidings. Ugh." James shuffled into the junction. Toby was still there, and now he was joined by Thomas. "You do look splendid with these, James," Toby commented as he pushed some vans at the end of the train. James shot off as soon as the crates were unloaded, and he sped towards the bridge over the old harbor. The trucks behaved nicely at first, but James didn't care. He bumped and banged them so much that by the time they reached the third station, they were determined to pay him out. "We'll do it on the hill. That'll teach him." It wasn't long until they reached the bottom of Gordon's Hill. As James snorted up, the trucks held him back. It was a great struggle to reach the top. At the top, a sign stood saying, "All trains stop to pin down brakes." James had had an accident before with trucks running away and should have remembered this post, but he was so busy thinking about what he'd say to Toby when they next met that he had forgotten. The trucks bumped and banged James up and over the top of the hill. "Hurrah, hurrah, hurrah! Try to stop us now, James!" The trucks were right. As they sped down the hill, James whistling up front and the trucks screaming behind, James lost control of the situation. On, they hollered. The guards screwed on the brakes and the trucks began to slow. It was already too late, however. At the station, the runaway swerved into the sidings. Disaster lay ahead. James felt something sticky splash all over him. When he opened his eyes, he found that he had crashed into fully loaded tar wagons. They had exploded their loads all over James. He was black from smokebox to cab. The other engines passed the wreck and laughed at the sight in front of them. The only thing seriously damaged was James's ego. Toby and Percy arrived to clean up the mess. "Look here, Percy, whatever is that dirty object?"
"It's James, didn't you know?"
"It's James's shape, but James is a splendid red engine, ready for anything. You never see his paint dirty." James just looked at his buffers. Toby and Percy cleared away the unhurt cars and helped put James back on the rails. The Fat Controller arrived to oversee the operation. Once James was back on the rails, the Fat Controller spoke to the engines. He first turned to James. "Fancy letting your trucks run away? I am surprised. You aren't fit to be seen. You've been inspected, so I want you to finish up here, deliver the rest of the goods, and then get it washed down." "Yes, sir." And with that, James scampered away, leaving Toby. The Fat Controller smiled. "I'm proud of you, Toby. You've worked well and proved a credit to my railway. You shall get a new coat of paint. I think chocolate and blue will suffice." "Oh, yes, please, sir. And can Henrietta get new paint, too?" "Of course." Toby scurried away to tell Henrietta the happy news.